What's up, ZBrushers? Welcome back to Z Fever. My name is Ricky, and today we are going to be talking about insert multi-mesh custom brushes. We're going to talk about how to create custom brushes that we can use for things like rope, hair, chainmail. We're not going to be doing chainmail today, but the concept does apply across the board. So, you can see right here that I've got this thing. You're probably going, what in the world is this? Well, I have used this technique to create a custom hair brush. So for stylized hair, for the cartoony characters that I like to work on, this comes in quite useful. So what we're going to do is we're going to break it down. We're going to make a couple of objects, and we're going to talk about how to get these into place so that we can use them at a later point in time. All right, so let's get to it. Okay, so when we're making a custom brush, right, we're going to be working mostly from basic primitives here inside of ZBrush. You can either model things in another software package, or you can use what is readily available to us right here inside of ZBrush. So let me go ahead and clear this canvas. So I'm just going to go new doc. Nope, thank you. And I'm going to just grab, let's just grab a cylinder. Draw that out. Go into edit mode. And we'll go ahead and make this Polymesh 3D here in a moment. So what do we want to make? I'm gonna say let's make a piece of rope, okay? And that'll be the quickest way to demonstrate the very basics of this. I'm gonna use my Zmodeler. We're just going to create a little bit of depth to this. Now, when you're working with things like this, you want to try and keep it low poly, because what will end up happening in the long run is that you are going to you're going to end up, basically, if you make this into a brush, this is just going to be one small component, and if it's super dense, it will affect the output. So you know, be wary of that. So let's stitch to midpoint. I'm just going to do that all the way around. I could have avoided this by having a little bit of a better setup from the get-go, but that's perfectly fine. All right, and then I'm just gonna take a look at my dynamic preview, see how this is looking. Okay, it's not the greatest, but it is going to work for this purpose. So now what I want to do is I'm going to go through and I'm going to crease this line here. I'm also going to crease this top edge and the bottom edge. Probably get rid of that interior geo, but we'll be alright here. Okay, so what we're doing is we're just building shape. Alright, the next thing we need to do is we need to make sure this is all one poly group at first. Turn off dynamic preview. Now what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to grab pieces, turn them into a polygroup. Okay, so I have three separate polygroups now. Before I go any further though, I want to, if I'm making a rope, right, then I need to give this a bit of a twist. So what we're going to do is go over to deformation, and we're going to grab this twist in the Y, and let's give it about that much of a twist, not a full turn. All right. So that'll give us a little bit of something to play with. Now remember, if you're doing these things, if you're going to be making any twists, you do need to make sure that you have some geometry to be able to support the deformation, right? And so whenever I do my dynamic subdivision, just to see how things are going to be, it seems to be okay. I mean, it's not perfect, but it will work. So we have this here. What we're going to do at this point is we're simply going to go to our subtool menu, and we're going to go split, group split. Okay, and what this is going to do is it's going to break all those polygroups out into their own subtool, which is basically going to sever those vertices, which is really what we need. Okay, and then whenever we're done with that, we're simply going to merge these back down. Merge down, merge down. Okay. I just want to make sure that this is very clearly a separate polygroup, even though it already was. The color was quite similar, and I just want to make sure that I don't mistakenly get myself confused. Alright, so at this point, we're ready to make a brush. So what we're going to do is we're simply going to, I'm going to dock my brush palette over. I'm also going to dock this stroke palette over because we're going to need it. What I'm going to do is whenever I'm ready to make an insert mesh brush, I'm simply going to go B. I'm going to hit B on the keyboard, and I'm going to say create insert mesh. Now, be mindful that it is going to make this based on whatever the orientation of the object is whenever you're making the brush. So I'm comfortable with this right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit here, I'm going to hit B on the keyboard, create insert mesh. It's going to bring up this dialog menu. Do you want to make a new one, or do you want to append? If you already have an insert mesh brush, then you can actually append this to that brush, and it will be basically insert multi-mesh, right? So I'm going to say new, all right? And so now I have this new brush, and it's already active. So if I decide to draw things out, right, it's not exactly going to work right, okay? And the problem is because we don't have curve mode on. But if I turn curve mode on, you'll see now it'll draw things out as a curve. But then we have a few problems. I mean, this is pretty not exactly what we wanted, right? We want some rope. We don't want some jumbled mess of polygons, right? So when you have curve mode on, you head down to the brush palette, go down to modifiers, and then there are these options down here for triparts, weld points, and stretch. So we want to make sure that weld points is on and that stretch is on as well. And then we also want to adjust the curve resolution. Okay, so we're going to turn that up to, say, 5, somewhere between 5 and 7 is usually pretty good. I'll go ahead and put it up at 7. Then you can adjust the maximum bend angle, and it's just going to depend on what it is that you're drawing out. So now if I draw this out, turn off polyframe, you'll see that we have somewhat of a rope, right? Right now it's kind of snapping to the surface, so you can adjust those as you see fit. Now I've made this brush. Let's go ahead and test it out on an object like a cylinder. So I'm going to make that polymesh 3D. I'm just going to draw this out and hold shift, and you will see that I have this nice little brush that's basically just a rope, right? Now, let's say, okay, well, that's cool. Um, you can come through and you can make like a corrugated hose, you can make garden hose, whatever, anything that you need this for. You can make an insert mesh brush out of. So if you don't want to have to sit there and make braids for whatever character it is, make a simple braid, turn it into a brush, and you can save yourself a lot of time. Now you may still have to go back and do some sculpting, but at least all you're having to do is some minor sculpting, right? So let's have a look at how we can use this in a practical way, right? Okay, I'm going to show you how to use this to make some hair for a stylized character. Okay, all right. So let's use this in a more practical way, right? So I'm going to create some hair for a stylized character that I've been working on, and I'll show you the final result first, so you can get an idea of where we're going. So I've got this character. Let me turn on this hair. I created these all by doing using insert multi-mesh brushes that I made myself. I don't like the way that looked. Anyway, I can jump off into a multitude of rabbit holes. Trust me. So let me get back to where we need to be. So this is a technique that I picked up from Mr. Matt Thorpe, who picked this up from Mr. Dylan Ekron. And Dylan works for Disney Animation, and Matt works for Disney Interactive out at Avalanche. Makes a lot of the Disney Infinity characters. He's a really cool dude. I'd highly encourage you to check out his tutorial series, because I know it has definitely helped me out a lot. And you know, gotta give credit where credit is due. All right, so basically what I'm doing is I've gotten back to my basic cylinder. I'm bringing it down to 12 divisions around, and then I busted it down to just the two caps and no edge loops in between, right? So at this point I'm just going to make this a polymesh 3D, and we're going to start working on it. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using my mask lasso, and what we're going to do is we're just going to pull points around, right? So I'm just going to bounce back and forth between this and my transpose line, and just try to create some quick shapes here. And you can make pretty quick work of this, and you can make a lot of different variations. And I'm going to show you how to use those variations to create some brushes that you can use and continually add to. Whenever you have like 5 or 10 minutes or something like that, and maybe you don't have time to do a full sculpture, but you want to get something done. What you can do is you can make yourself tools that you can later on use down the road, right? So I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I just want to get it in a regular shape. And then I kind of want to squash it a little bit. There we go. So what we're going to do is let me head over to my Zmodeler brush. So ZM on the keyboard. And what I'm going to do is I just want to use my creasing function, right? So basically, everywhere that there's like a valley or an inset, it's not really an inset, but anywhere there's a dip, I'm going to put a crease. So that way, I'm also going to put a crease on the outer edge loops as well. So this way, whenever I turn on my dynamic subdivision, it holds these creases, right? So turn that off. And so I'll show you how this is going to be useful here in a moment. What we're going to do at this point is we're going to grab our slice curve because we still have to have those different polygroups, right? So with the slice curve, I'm just going to cut straight across, and it's going to give me 3 separate polygroups. Now at this point, all we have to do is go split, group split, hit OK, and now it's busted all those out into their own polygroup. This is useful because what it has done is basically severed those vertices so that we don't have to split them manually, right? So I'm gonna merge these back down, merge down, okay. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to proceed and turn this into a insert mesh brush. So I'm going to say create insert mesh. I'm going to make a new one. All right. But before I get too much further, I'm going to go ahead and make another variant. So let's just go through. I'm going to try to make this as quick as possible. You can spend as little or as much time on these as you would like. I think this will be good. Okay, so now we do need to make sure that whenever we do make these changes, I'm gonna head back over to my Zmodeler brush. When we make these changes, we do need to reassess where our creases are because the form has changed, so the creases need to change as well. Don't need that there, but we can definitely use one here. The reason I'm not using the full edge loop is because these points aren't welded together and it wouldn't carry through all the way. Alright, so let's do a quick preview. This should be good. It's understandably wonky here, but that's going to be fixed here momentarily. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to head back over to that insert mesh brush, right? And this time I'm going to go back into this. I'm going to hit create insert mesh. And I'm going to say I want to append this. And what it's going to do is it's going to give me a prompt. It's going to say pressing the M key while an insert multi-mesh brush is active will enable you to view and select any of the included shapes. Alright, thank you ZBrush. Alright, so now I have this brush. And if I hit M on the keyboard, you'll see that I have 2 different ones. Okay, now you can go through and you can add, I don't know if there's a limit. I don't believe there is. If there is, I'll find it out. But basically, once we have this, we need to go through and we need to make some adjustments. So just like before, whenever we did with that rope, we need to head up to curve functions, or curve actually, and make sure that curve mode is active. Okay, And so now that we have this, we'll be drawing out a curve, but as you can see, things are not welded together. So we need to head over to weld points under the brush palette. We'll go under modifiers, make sure that triparts is on, weld points is active, and stretch is as well. We're going to set this curve resolution to, let's say, 5, right? And you can change the bend angle, just make sure that it's going to be dependent on whatever you're making, right? Now whenever we draw things out, everything is connected. But before we go any further, we need to also make sure that this carries over to the other object. So if I select my other piece, this one, you'll see that all those pieces aren't connected, right? So whichever one that I had active at the time, those modifiers are going to apply to, but the other one didn't, as you can see. So all we need to do is, because curve mode's already on, all we have to do is turn on weld points, stretch, and we can set the resolution for that piece. So set that one to 6. You'll have to find a balance that works for you. Okay, so now what I have is a brush that works like this, but you can see it's going to be basically drawing out the same one. But because I have multiple ones, what I can do is I can use this slider over here. It's hard to read, but it says multi-mesh select. So it's going to be based on how many that you have. Since I know I have 2, I'm just going to set it over to 2. So now whenever I draw things out, it will change things up. Every other one is going to be the alternative of whatever is available, right? Now, this is cool, but it doesn't exactly look like hair, does it? So this is where we start adjusting our curve modifiers underneath the stroke palette. So we can turn on this size or intensity. I'm just going to stick with size because we're basically just going to be working off the brush size, not based on tablet intensity, right? So I'm just going to adjust this. I don't want it to go all the way down, because if I do, it's going to bring everything to a pretty harsh point. And I want to set just a bit of a curve so it's not completely linear, right? And you can come through and change this up as much as you would like to. So if you wanted to make it really extreme, you'll see that there's weird size variation, right? And so if that serves a purpose that you're going after, definitely go for it. But for what we're using it for, it's not going to be so effective. So now if I draw things out, you'll see that it'll give this nice taper that goes all the way down, right? And so we have that along with our variation, and we can definitely use this to our advantage, right? And so you can see you can really go to town with this. So I've got like a Princess Leia that I've been working on, and that would be really cool to I can use this to get those buns right, in a stylized way. So whenever you're done with this, you can really you should be able to see how effective this should be. All right. So when you're done with this, you can say, okay, well, I want to save this brush. So you come down, you can save it, and you can store it. And later on, if you have time and you want to make some other variables, you can definitely do that and just build up and add to your own brush library. So then with this, I can head back over to this character, right? And let me turn off these hairs here. This brush is ginormous, right? And so I can use this and basically just get things where I want them to be. Now that's quite large. It's not really going to help us. But you can see that we can build things up quite quickly here. So if you have like an idea already of what the hair is going to be, you can follow whatever your guidelines were before you started drawing things out. Now, let's say that's not exactly where you wanted things to be. You can always adjust this so that you can lock the starting point, or you can lock the end point. Just get in there and play around with the brush modifiers. But another cool thing is, in what I like to do, something I did with the hair that I already had on this character, is I split these out into their own separate subtools. So I'm gonna split hidden, and then go into these. Turn on polyframe so we can see. So basically, what I did is I just use my transpose line, and then I hold Control, drag these out, and because they're gonna be kind of similar, I don't always have to go through and draw a new one out. I can use what I already have to kind of get me to where I need to be. And then let's say this isn't working out quite the way that I need it to. I need to shape things up. Well, all I need to do is grab my Move Topological brush, and it will recognize the difference in topological surfaces. So I can come through and grab them individually without adjusting the entire form. And then whenever I'm working on the bigger form, then I can move things with the major move brush. Okay, so that's cool. But you might be going, well, okay, that's nice, but I'm working on a game character and I need hair planes. All right, well, here's a quick fix for that one. All right, so I'm going to head back over to this, turn these off, and basically we can use the same technique. We're just going to grab a plane 3D, turn on polyframe, make sure it's a polymesh 3D. All right, and this is one that I kind of already created, and it doesn't have any divisions. And really, this one's pretty darn simple. All we got to do is cut across, and then do a group split. Okay, and then we just merge them down. Merge down. Okay, merge down. All right. And so now it's pretty much the same thing. And so I can go brush, create, insert, brush. And I could even add this to my already existing brushes if I wanted to make that. If I have a brush that's going to be making stylized hair, but I also want to be able to switch to hair planes, then I could do that as well. But I'm just going to make a new one, and let's head back over to this project. And with this on, then come back up to my curves, make sure curve mode is on, make sure triparts is on, weld points is on, stretch is on, and we'll set this up to 5. Curve modifiers, go ahead and make sure that size is active, and then we can just draw things out. Pretty simple, right? And once you have this, then you can come through, move things around, much in the same way that we already worked with it, right? Obviously you're going to take your time on these things, but you can build this up and make it work to your advantage, right? So you can either do it this way, or you can go into Maya and do it that way. It's really up to you. Turn on double. So that's that. I hope this has been helpful. I've shown you a couple of practical ways to go about things. If you have any questions, definitely feel free to ask. You can use this on multiple things. It doesn't have to be hair. It doesn't have to be rope. Like I said before, you can make chains. You can make anything, right? So get in there, make yourself some custom brushes, and help yourself out. So I hope this has been helpful. If you're new, please subscribe. If you're returning, thanks for watching. Um, Check out the Z Fever group there on Facebook. I've got some resources and some really cool work that's been going up. Definitely get involved. Lots of people have questions, and the community's been really good about helping each other out, and that's really what this is all about. So, thanks again for watching. Happy ZBrushing, guys. Take care.